to us Christians, what we believe is freedom is...
You can see in today's society that people who have all the money that they ever wanted, the perfect job that makes them billions, they're not actually happy. We're not just here to fulfill our desires.
Being free is knowing who we are and whose we are.
Unashamed. Hi, I'm Cass.
And I'm Annie, and we are unashamed. We are here at Cassidy's house for the first time filming a video together. We are so happy to be here, both of us not on a Zoom, and just talk to you guys. So today we are talking along with Cassidy Sisters blog post. Shout out to Sydney for writing that for us. But we're talking along with that, kind of expanding more on some of the points that she brought up with comparison. So we're going to talk about comparison and how it relates to freedom.
One of the contrasting things that we want to talk about is the difference between freedom from reality and freedom of reality, and how that affects us when we're comparing our lives to the lives of others.
Recently, we've just kind of been talking about freedom and what kind of freedom is, and we're looking back on this talk from SLS 2020. Dr. Jonathan Rays actually gives a talk about being in the right mindset, and he actually talks about freedom and the freedom that we have, and how the idea of freedom that we have as Christians is a lot different from the idea of freedom that society has. And so we just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what these ideas of freedom are. So freedom in society pretty much is you do whatever you want, whenever you want, and that's what makes you free. You are free when you satisfy your desires in the way that you can, and you do anything to satisfy those, and pretty much do whatever you want. And that's what society tells us is freedom, when actually to us Christians, what we believe is freedom is something that's kind of limited, actually. It's not doing whatever you want. It is actually limited in a way, and it's limited to either saying yes or no to the destiny that we have been created for, the destiny of immortality with the one who loves us, as Dr. Rays puts it. So our idea of freedom is a lot different, and when you look at it through these different lenses, then the way that we live our lives and the way we go about how we live is a lot different as well.
So freedom from reality, like she said, has to do with being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want. The freedom from reality is the idea that you are free when you are able to choose whatever you want. But in reality, that is not actually what makes you happy, because you can see in today's society that people who have all the money that they ever wanted, the perfect job that makes them billions, they're not actually happy. They have everything in this world that they could ever want, and they can make whatever decisions that they desire. But in the end, they're not happy because they're not following their destiny in being called to live immortally with Christ. Freedom of reality, though, is knowing, like Annie said, that we have a destiny. We have an ultimate goal in our lives. We're not just here to fulfill our desires. We're here to ultimately live with Christ. We're here to ultimately get ourselves and others to heaven, and we each have a different way of getting about that. We're not all called to get to heaven the same way, because we all are born in different parts of the world. We're all born into different lifestyles. We all have different options that are available to us. And the reason why comparing ourselves to the lives of others is so bad is because we look at our path to heaven and you see that it's different from others, and you're like, well, maybe their way is better. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. And we just continually tear ourselves down, and we're like, I can't get to heaven because I'm not doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and ultimately, when we compare ourselves, we are not free, because being free is knowing who we are and whose we are, knowing that we are a child of God, a daughter or son of the Creator, and a brother and sister to Christ, and whose we are God's. He has chosen us, He has made us, we are created by Him and loved by Him. And so when we compare ourselves, we are in a way looking at our lives and looking at ourselves and thinking to ourselves, oh, I wish I had this, or in a way judging other people and ourselves. And kind of we get into this habit of looking at other people's lives and knowing what we want and who they are rather than who we are and who we are called to be, and being content in that call, and being unique in that call, that it's not going to be the same as everyone else. Our path to heaven, our path to immortality with the one that we love is not going to be the same as anyone else's. Relating to Sydney's blog post, she talks about how a world with God has no need for comparison. If our world has God in it and God created our world, then there's no need to compare, because He loves us and He created it just as it is supposed to be.
One of the other things that's in Sydney's blog post is like social media and how that has a big impact on how we compare our lives today, because social media in our society is a very big part of our society. And a lot of the times, like my sister said, you look at someone else's life and you're like, well, I don't have as many kids as them. I don't have that lifestyle. I don't have as much money as they do. I must be doing something wrong because I'm not like them. And it's very easy to compare our lives with those of others when it's just on a screen, when you just get to see the surface of someone else's life. But we as Christians, we are called to dive deeper than just the surface of our call to Christ. We're not just supposed to look like we're following Christ. We're supposed to wholeheartedly fall in love with Christ and want and desire that calling to be with Christ in heaven. And that's ultimately the goal. And nobody ever can live the same, like nobody can ever have the same path to heaven. That's just not possible.
And Cassidy kind of hinted at this when she was talking about with social media, and we can tend to look at people's lives and compare stuff that we don't have and say like we don't have this good of a job and whatnot. And that kind of like hearing that, I'm sure you guys feel this, but it gives a sense of like being trapped. And whenever you're trapped, you're not free. It has this kind of way of like kind of us like keeping us trapped in and focusing on this negative and like what you wish you had. And rather, a more freeing mindset to have is to realize that these are gifts in other people, that, oh, I don't have as good a job as someone else might. Well, maybe that is a gift that they were given and you were given a different gift. And ultimately, we're not supposed to see these gifts as a threat. More so, we're supposed to see these gifts as additions to the body of Christ, making the body better. And because we are like a body of Christ, and not every part of the body works the same. If it would, then, like, for example, if you take like a human body, like if everything worked like the hinge of my arm, that would be so hard, because like how would I be able to like walk and use my hips? How would I be able to turn my neck? Like every part of the body is supposed to be different, but helps the body in a different way. And that's what we're called, as St. Paul says, that we are one body, many parts. We are called to live out our specific thing that we have to do for the body of Christ. And so instead of looking at what we wish we had, lifting those people up with the gifts that they have, and acknowledging that, yes, they have a gift, but that is ultimately helping us and aiding the body of Christ.
Yeah, and going off of that, when you look at other people's gifts and you're like helping them highlight their gifts and like acknowledging how they're getting to Christ, you also have to look at yourself and be like, what are my gifts? What is God calling me to do with my life? Like, what am I good at? Because none of us are good at the same thing. Like, Annie has a lot of gifts that I don't have, and that's not
vice versa. Vice versa.
And that's not a bad thing. Like, she is able to follow Christ in ways that I'm not able to, and I'm able to follow Christ in ways that she's not able to, and there's nothing wrong with that, because everybody has a different relationship with Christ. And that's not a bad thing, because no relationship is ever going to be the same. Like, I have different relationships with each of my different siblings. Like, none of my relationships with my siblings are exactly the same. And that's the same way with our relationship with Christ. Like, we're each different sons and daughters of Christ, and we're not going to have the same exact relationship with God. And we have to look at our gifts and what God has given us, and we are able to, like, build on those and highlight our gifts. And by being more confident in the gifts that you have and, like, encouraging others to highlight their gifts, you're able to stop comparing yourself to them in a bad way. Because, yeah, like, you can't compare yourself to other people and be like, they have a gift that I don't have, so, like, maybe they'll be better at this. But in doing that, you aren't tearing people down. You're just acknowledging that they're different, and that's not wrong. But you have to, like, acknowledge the gifts that you have and
embrace those gifts. Embrace those gifts that God has given you. Like, realize that you're different and that you have different gifts. And although you may not have something that someone else has, reflect and be grateful for the gifts that you have been given, and really embrace those and live with those gifts to the best of your ability, because God gave you those gifts for a reason, and He knew that they have a special place for you in your life, and that you're going to use them in such a way to transform the world. Yeah. Cassidy, you want to close this out?
Of course. If you haven't read it yet, please go check out my sister's blog post. It is absolutely amazing. I love her to death. She's my biggest role model. So that little shout out at the end means a lot to me. But go check out my sister's blog post. Go check out our last videos and other blog posts on our video that will be linked below. And do not forget to like and subscribe. We will see you next time. Have a great day, and don't forget to live life unashamed.
Woo!